So the next response is, I go through periods where I don't draw. So this is a person who draws. I don't draw because I find ways to hate my art.
Oh my God. Well, that's a little dark. Hold on. I'm trying to like.
So this person, it's kind of like that all or nothing thinking, that all or nothing mindset. They find ways to hate their art, so they would rather just not do it at all.
Oh my
because
God. Yeah.
it means all those ugly emotions, you know?
What's going on here? I'm trying to find my happy place. I'm sorry. I'm like moving around. I would love to take the lead on this one. So
Go for it.
What do you do to not hate yourself? Girl, I have no idea. Why do you think I'm here? I'm trying to talk it out because I don't know. She's like, how do you just not do it all together? And I'm like, I don't know. For the last 10 days, I haven't played piano. So you tell me, girl. You tell me.
Oh, this is so for reference sake, I haven't danced in 3 months.
Oh my God, girl, you're so bad.
Yeah, I went from dancing like every single day, sometimes twice a day, to doing absolutely no working out or dancing for 3 months. Okay, I just want to tell this to everybody just so you all feel better about yourselves. We all go.
Misery loves company.
Yeah, no, well, and also, well, just because I want people to actually feel like, you know, this is normal. I don't want people to think like, oh no, I'm the only person that's not normal and I should hate myself even more, that, you know, and this is the reason why, because I'm not doing my art at all, because blah, 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 you know, A, B, and C. Right now at this moment, I'm struggling hardcore getting into it because I'm struggling with this very thing. Like I'm my biggest critic, and I know that it's funny because the other night I was like, I should work out and I have to make sure I at least dance for an hour at least, because that's when I know that I got.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but I do battle those same ugly thoughts. Especially since I lost a lot of muscle. Speaking from a dancing point of view, I lost a lot of muscle. I know I'm definitely rusty, and I'm a pole dancer too. So when I touched the pole for the first time the other night, I couldn't do a basic trick, like a very fundamental trick, which is an invert. Well, it's not very fundamental because you do have to. It's not necessarily a beginner trick.
Fundamental, and then you said invert, and I was like, "Girl,
yeah,
you're making it worse."
That you do learn that opens up to like a whole new world of tricks, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But an invert, like I had never gone this long without this all the muscle, because I had a fitness trainer like 5 years ago or something. Wait, I forgot. Yeah, about 5 years ago I got a fitness trainer, and I haven't been not fit since. Like I've always had somewhat like some muscle, and I've always maintained it. The longest period of time that I went without working out was maybe a month or so, or a month and a half, but it's never been this long where I didn't work out whatsoever. And sure enough, I can't even invert. Simple exercises gets me like sore as hell. And I remember where I was 3 months ago, where I was dancing every single night. I look at all my videos where I was like freaking, you know, I was killing it. Like I was improving so much because I was dancing every single day. I'm rusty as hell right now. And it sucks. It does really suck being in that mindset. Thankfully, this is where the recording comes in, where I said, like, it's important to record anything that you do. I have these recordings that I look back on, and I always remind myself I was there once before, I can get there again, you know? Let's see.
You know what?
Yeah, I just want to tell people about that.
That was awesome. And also that's kind of like, I'm like laughing at you at the same time, I know, but I actually completely love and value that you're like, oh yeah, let's first start off with all of our own problems, because it really like both of us are professionals, right? We're professional artists, we're professional, like we have to stay motivated, okay, in order to make our job work, right? And talking about how we do that, it isn't cut dry and simple. And I think a lot of the times the answer is like, we don't. Like that's the actual answer, is like, we're not motivated all the time. This is how we balance it to keep a certain amount of momentum. And the idea is that everyone is trying to achieve a higher and easier flowing momentum in their work. And so while you were doing that, I wrote down a couple things. So the main focus of this one is, how do you not give up, really the aspect of giving up, when you have so much like hate speech about something, like really when you're dealing with overwhelm. So I would like restructure it. So how do you not give up when you're feeling overwhelm? And the overwhelm is going to be, again, from those expectations that you put up on yourself. And one thing is, with expectations, one thing is, you know, you can release the expectation, realizing that you're not there right now. But one thing I want to say about giving up, especially since I came back to piano, because I gave up for 8 years, I think is what my gap was, where I didn't play for 8 years. So I took piano lessons for 12 or 13 years or something like that. And then I gave up for 8 years, and then I came back to it. And you completely can 100% give. I'm better than I've ever been right now. So you can always come back to it. But giving up the expectation is not the same as giving up your end goal. So just for all of you guys, so you can laugh at me, I want you to take I want you to look into my end goals a little bit. Okay. So my end goal, hilariously, is to become probably a fairly professional West Coast dancer. When I say professional, I mean, I don't know how many competitions I'm going to do, because I don't like competitive lifestyle. But my time, I would like to be at a dance studio doing partner dances, salsa, West Coast, blues, bachata. I would like to be doing that like 5 hours a day. Okay. And that's actually like true. That's actually where I would like to spend my time. Okay. Now, a couple things is, one, if you didn't know, most dance studios are for children. So they don't allow you to go there for 5 hours. They only do that for kids. So that's an interesting thing that I'll have to deal with later. Number two, I have a job and a life. And also I have to live by society's rules. So there's like a few things there that get in the way. And it doesn't mean that I don't want to continue.
Passionate towards yourself.
Yes, so that's that. Yeah, for sure. That's my passion. And also I want to get into pole dance as well, like pretty like legitimately, because I see it as a huge form of self-expression, especially for women. If you can release the negativity associated with pole dance, because there's so much, understanding the chakras alignment that you achieve through that is ridiculous, because you get physical like density. You also get especially sacral chakra expression, which is our most suppressed chakra in society today, which is the like sexual desire chakra. Okay. You have your when I talk about density, that's actually more solar plexus related, which is the energy output that you put in, the artistry, and then also, again, like all sorts of other things regarding like femininity, art, the art being your physical body, being in touch with you physically being the art. It's not about the piano. It's about me. And I am the player, right? So the art still is me. It's not the piano. It is me. But pole dance takes that to a very, very, very literal place. And I love it. Okay. So understanding your full spectrum goals. I am not expecting any of that out of myself right now whatsoever.
Yeah.
My end goal, all I'm doing is just registering where I need to be. And where I need to be is probably a minimum of another 3 years in yoga, doing regular stretches and flexibility training, because I'm not currently at a gym. I'm not currently anywhere else. That's like where I'm applying my fundamentals, right? And also doing yoga teaching is something I'm interested in, blah, blah, blah. I've got lots of interest, okay? The overwhelm is taking that dream of me wanting to do this 5 hours a day, right? And saying, I need it right now. And if I don't have it right now, the meaning that I've assigned behind that is such and such and such. That's your childhood work. That's the reason why you don't have it right now, is because, well, I'm not working hard enough, or I'm not making any improvements. Talk about improvements before.
Or fast enough.
improving fast enough. Yeah. If I just had more of this, then I could improve, and then I would have this, and then I would have whatever money. I don't know,
Weird race against time. It's
well,
really
I
weird.
understand the race against time, man. We only have so much, let me tell you. But you have to acknowledge that, like, it's almost that the Deepak Chopra book has been really good. I'm at the tail end of it where it's kind of sciencey right now. But the afterlife and the life after death book is great for like readjusting your timeline as like life is short, which means like what you accomplish is what you get out of it. What you don't like. I don't want to say you can't control the timeline, because you actually can to an extent, but it's more about acknowledging the quality, really, like the quality of life. And the quality actually isn't tied. I don't have my quality of life linked up and tied up in my activity or my goal there. So my quality of life doesn't come from the achievement of dancing 5 hours a day. That is the result actually of self-expression. And that's really where, if you were going to do some childhood work, or you're feeling overwhelmed or like giving up, what's happening is that you have too much input of expectation this way, weighing down from the outside. And you don't have enough expression from the inside. And by the way, that's the spiritual definition of depression. Which is where you are literally being depressed from the outside in by the energy outside of you. That can be from other people, but it's also invited by you if you're spending time around that. And it's where this energy, your input, is too much for the density of your output. You have not developed your sense of density and self-expression. And then that goes back to, well, how do I develop my self-expression? Well, you got to go in the bathtub and get pissed is what you need to do. You need to take time for yourself, and you need to be angry. And what's super funny for me, actually, I figured this out a while ago, and I was just miserable for like 3 years, but crying, I can tell when my body needs to cry. It's a form of self-expression, and it will just do it. Now it's not even a miserable task. If I do it, I'm like, oh yeah, this feels great, And I don't really cry hard or like long right now. I mean, I had a good cry. Like I went through a heart chakra opening like a few months ago. That was pretty good. I let loose a big one, dealing with irrationality. My heart felt like it was irrational, and I was repressing so much because I felt like any feeling I felt was irrational. And I'm a very fiery person, by the way, so that fire is a very guilty substance within us. Everybody's got fire, air, earth, water. Yeah. But our fire is very guilty, because the way that we view fire is very strange and counteracts the other elements. Fire we're afraid of. And also, if you look at like fires running rampant, we're drying out our ecosystem so much that fires are everywhere. Like everything is catching fire, and our anger also is a form of our fire. And we know this, and we put it down. What do? We dump a bunch of chemicals all over it, and we don't put back into the ecosystem water. We keep stripping water, like we're not working on our ecosystem of ourselves to balance out that fire. And the best thing to do within our own constitution is to let it express itself. And if you have, and usually what happens actually, so my sensei who martial arts trained me for 3 years, we're still good friends. We don't live in the same city anymore, so I don't take classes at this point. We talk probably a couple times a week. One of the most important things this guy did for me was when I went through my divorce, he allowed me to be as angry as I wanted. And it was very personal to him as well. So I was angry at him. I exploded on him personally in a very inappropriate way. Like I would completely lash out socially in ways that were not related to this person. But he allowed it. He was like, all right, if this is where you're at, he considered that. Now, that's why I still have a relationship with this person today, is because he allowed me to express. If you have people in your life and you're registering that this is where you need to express yourself, is you need to be negative, and this is what you need for you, as long as you're not demanding a response out of this person, meaning you can be angry as you want, but don't expect this person to take on that anger. It is your anger, take self-responsibility. But if you need to express your anger and this person cannot allow that expression, they put that down, well, you're just hateful. I hate when people I hate when people do that. It's a counterintuitive thing, but I get frustrated when someone thinks that venting is hatred. It is not hatred. Hatred doesn't move. Hatred is actually non-movement opposition. If you're expressing yourself and you're not expecting somebody to validate you, and you are expressing your frustration for a circumstance, that's movement in and of itself, which means that it's not hate. That's a form of self-reflection.
I encounter that issue with the emotion of like jealousy. Like I'll have friends that I go to, you are being one of them, where like if I'm feeling in a mindset and I just need to vent about it, no matter how shameful I feel about the feeling, like, because nobody feels good when like you're talking about how you're so jealous of a person, and like, you know, it's a very raw, vulnerable feeling.
Oh yeah.
And I hate it more than anything when I express those feelings to the wrong people, and then they make me feel like crap for feeling those feelings. Like, wow, that's really like low of you to feel like that, or like wish that, like, wishful thinking is not the same thing as taking action. Okay, so if you feel like in that moment you wish that some, you know, they, I don't like harming, I guess, but like not really, like, or they, some bad luck came their way or something, it's okay. Like, let your imagination run wild, as long as you're not taking action upon it.
And
that's
expressing yourself, especially acknowledging
that what you're doing.
It's so interesting when you acknowledge jealousy. So jealousy, by the way, if I had to rate that feeling on a scale of 1 to terrible, that's like, oh, I would dang near kill myself just to not.
You have to acknowledge it without shaming it. You can't shame yourself for feeling it.
Yeah, and what's funny is when you acknowledge that you're feeling jealousy, actually what you do, the first time you acknowledge jealousy, and that's actually what it is you bring yourself from anger to sorrow, and you acknowledge that you actually admire this person and you don't want to. That's really what it is that you admire this person and you don't want to. You compare yourself and then you put yourself down on top of it. It's a very complex emotion and not a good one. And it's also very, you know, overwhelming in density. What taking time for yourself will do, and through the power of observation and all of that, is it takes you out of that confusion state, which is what jealousy is, by the way. So understand that jealousy is a confusion state, which is you admire someone and don't like them at the same time for reasons that you don't understand. And you're in denial about half the time anyways. You know, like there's stuff all the time that I see, especially with very virtuous, some of my virtuous friends that understand virtue and intention and beauty. And what will happen is they'll see a woman in her sexuality and they will be jealous of that. And they'll like put it down, but they have a very deep sense of relationship with that person because they want to express themselves, but they don't agree in the mind with the way that that's expressed. But keep in mind, that's why the sexual chakras are put down so much, is because we view that type of expression so negatively so often, you know. Provocatively means that you're trying to provoke a response out of someone else to feed off that energy. That's provoking, not necessarily a good thing, right? So, and that's what sexuality is. We think that sexuality is provocative and provoking. It's not provoking if that's not your intention. And that's, you know, a whole other thing. This is our tangent thing that we're doing now. But going back to that, the self-hate and the giving up, you need to find a sense of emotive expression. And if you can't do it through your art right now, that means that it is an emotional thing. It is really personal. It's something in your personal life that is really clogging up your sense of self so badly that you can't get anything done in the root chakra because you can't express yourself personally to probably someone else. And one thing I want to invite people to understand is that if you can't express yourself, one, reflect on how and why, because it is not somebody else's job to be berated by your emotions. And that doesn't mean that they don't love you. It's not necessarily that. But also look at the responses to the emotions around you. Does someone respect? They don't have to like it, but do they respect your sense of self-expression? Hey, You're totally right. When you get overwhelmed, I get overwhelmed. That's a respectful way to say, like, I can't handle your emotions because you're too fiery. I do that. Like my partner, I have to watch that with, because I'm very fiery, and I had to be aware that, like, I need to express myself around him and sometimes not around him. And what actually happened in one of our conversations is he recognized he was suppressing me without meaning to, because I was feeling so guilty at, like, overwhelming him. And I'm like, it's not your job to deal with my emotions. And he's like, yeah, but now you're living in your own house, not expressing yourself. And I'm like, yeah. So we had to come to an acknowledgement. Do these people around you, does your support system, do they allow you to express yourself? And if not, then what you need to do is go to places that do allow you to express yourself. And usually in the beginning, before you would have time to attract people into your life that allow this, you have to go to a cafe, man. And you go and you read or you write a writing that goes back to our self-expression of the writings. I mean, what I would do, I have a cafe here that I go to all the time. I'm a regular there, and I do my work, but I also free journal there, and I read my books. What are you laughing about?
I was gonna say, because you were like, go to a cafe, and I was like, yeah, the baristas always are, like, ready to listen.
Oh yeah, they're ready. That's literally the job. For $8 an hour, just unleash all over the barista. I was a barista. That's what everyone did all the time.
Don't do that. That was a joke. I was just kidding.
But also, I mean, that's what the younger generation is for, to be criticized. So let's just keep this thing going.
And yes, Lindsey was a barista for a very long time, so she had that.
I know my hot chocolate was banging. You guys would be so jealous. On this boat ride that we went on in August, I made everyone coffees, and they were like, oh my God, I forgot you were a barista. And I was like, they say that those jobs are meaningless, but I am like a whiz at making a latte, man. It's great. Okay, so self-hating, giving up, okay? It means you need to find some form of self-expression. And one thing I have down here, okay, is rest. So,
sleep.
People think that procrastination is actually because you are resting too much, and that's not true. It's because you're not resting enough.
Responsible.
Yeah. Procrastination is a result. Procrastination is a result of not, being able to self-express or being in a certain equilibrium to get this product done. And when you can't self-express, you can't do this action that requires motivation, okay? But rest is when you take self-reflection time. So I think I told people with my polycystic ovarian syndrome and stuff that I napped for like 4 months. I slept like 15 hours a day. And I got this idea from another woman who said she did the same thing. Lily Coy, Legit Nutrition Hawaii. She had a vegan YouTube forever, and she talks about hormone health and vegan diet and all that stuff. And what she did is she just napped. She just napped forever. And she's like, that's what I needed to do. And that's what I did, is I napped and I cried for 4 months. And it was, I feel so bad for people who don't do this. And yes, clear your time. Stop going out with friends. And if they don't understand you and they berate you with how selfish you are for not coming out for drinks or whatever, then like, this is a big shift in your life where you're shifting and reprioritizing your own self-focus. This is where density comes from. This is where your sense of self is hardening up, is taking that time for yourself and enjoying your rest. And that's where your anxiety and your depression is going to be run havoc, is when you start to rest, is because that silence then gets taken up with what the negativity is coming to light. And you have to let it come to light so you can go through the identification process, completion process is allowing it to come to light. And once you do your rest work, which is you acknowledge that you're taking a break from your task because you are overwhelmed, and really that is like, how do you not give up? The answer is you give up. And once you give up and you go through your rest period, however long that may be, for me, it was like four months, right? Of just like straight crying and sleeping. Okay.
3 months.
3 months. Girl, man, you work fast. The last one I was going to say, when you're ready to jumpstart, which I think is actually what that question was more tailored towards, was how to jumpstart. Because the answer is, how do I not give up? The answer is you give up, you rest. Then how do I jumpstart my motivation is what comes after. How do you know when you're ready to jumpstart? Is when you're bored. When you've woken up from your nap and you're not spiraling with depression and it's bored. It's like, ugh, it's a little restlessness, and it's probably some indecisiveness. Like, I need to do something, but I'm procrastinating. I don't really want to do this. I don't really want to do that. I'm a little restless. Okay. And that's when your boredom sets in. And when your boredom sets in is when you can work on jump starting. So an example, I just jump started because I told you about my lawsuit thing, and it took out my sleep for a week or 10 days, which took out my yoga for even longer. And I haven't even gotten back into piano, right? I haven't even started. So I jump started my, I jump started my yoga a little bit because me and Kyle work out together on Sundays. So when he was ready to work out on Sunday, I was too. He was also kind of like lower energy. So we didn't throw ourselves heavy and forceful into something. But when you need to jumpstart is when you can reach out to friends. Hey, would you like to do A, B, C, or D? And that's where, hey, you go for a hike or you go and do something just for movement sake. Another thing too is that this is where people do cleanses and they do their diets and they do whatever, set a short period of time. So that is where you set, hey, I'm going to do this 30-day diet cleanse, something. It doesn't even matter if it's real, by the way. Like if you got one of those like 30-day something colon cleanse shelf pills from Whole Foods, and you're still eating like garbage, what it does, placebo effect, is it creates a routine, or it creates a movement, any kind of movement, especially new movement that is not tied to negative self-beliefs. Like my piano is deeply rooted to negative self-beliefs because it's something been so long in my life. Okay, that's fine. I'm working through it. But doing a liver cleanse that is meaningless, that I've never done before, for 30 days puts me in a mindset of newness. Or even if anyone follows astrology, or they're like, oh, the new moon's coming up. Oh, celebrate your new moon with a new commitment, and let that commitment be something like brand new, not the project that you're procrastinating on, but brand new, because you just need something to jumpstart movement. And jumpstarting movement is done best when you don't have attachments. Hashtag rebound system totally works when you break up, ladies.
That's also why I told you I like trying new things too. Like in the beginning with dance, it was fun trying out dance because I was starting to get burnt out with all of my emotional shit with art, with drawing. So I tried something else new, and I had zero attachments to dance because I'd never tried it before and everything, and I knew I was gonna like be a newbie and not gonna be pro right away because duh, and it felt nice, like expecting that of myself.
And when it's brand new, you don't have to have that huge looming, overwhelming expectation because it's brand new. You expect nothing usually when it's brand new, is you can be like, well, I'm not going to be good at it, like right off the bat, hopefully. And another thing too, I was going to say, because I don't talk a lot about people who have children already, but if you do have kids are like a jump start. I mean, they require your attention so heavily that if you want to do something that requires energy, asking a child for help with anything is like the greatest pleasure you could ever give a kid, because all they want to do is be in charge and be in control, because they're little freedom fighters and thinkers. And if you're like, hey, mommy wants to try something new, will you help me through this? I'm very intimidated. If you tell a kid you're intimidated, they're like, what? Why?
And they like to show off.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's so funny. But they'll help you through anything. And that in and of itself can just be like funny. Like it can just be relieving, like comedic relief, because they get so into it, whatever that is. Like, hey, I want to do this new project. Set up any kind of new project to get movement going, and try and make it, even if it's like an art project, try and make it relevant to you. So don't just do something for them, like I'm going to get them this rocket ship and then feed off their excitement for their rocket ship that they're building. Try and make it something that you're interested in. Like, I never learned such and such. Maybe I'll, for me, geometry, like I would eventually, on my list of things to do, like to get better and back into practicing math, like a workbook or something. And if geometry is the one thing, maybe get them an art project that's relevant to geometry. That's what I would do, is if I'm interested in doing math at some point, I would get something that has to do with shapes, geometry, that it's relevant in my own mind. It piques my own interest. It's not just about the kid, and then do it together, or friends, same thing, like do something together. And then as you get on your cleanse, you're going to get your momentum going. And as your momentum builds, you can keep an eye on where that thing is in your head. Look, for me, it's piano. That's coming up pretty quick here. I want to say I did practice the other day. Practice something very quick. Nothing to be super impressed with, but
for those who are taking those long breaks, like for me, I took that 3-month break. If you are truly scared of either getting rusty or not learning anything, I always tell people to not underestimate the power, like you said earlier, about the power of intaking input. Don't ever underestimate the power of visual learning. I swear that the reason why I am the dancer that I am now is partially due to the fact that I binge watch Dance Moms, the show Dance Moms, all the time. And the reason why I do it is I don't watch it for the drama. The drama is just stupid and, sometimes funny. The reason why I got so obsessed with that show was you literally follow these kids from age like 8, 6, 7, 8, whatever, to like age 15 through 8 seasons, and you see their improvement, and you listen to the critiques, even though she's like, kind of harsh about, not kind of, she's really harsh about it. You listen to the critiques that the teacher is like hammering on these people. So I'm like listening to what makes a good dancer. Like whenever I hear her critiques, I'm like, okay, so whenever I dance, like it's important to like, okay, make sure you always straighten your legs, point your feet, don't bend the knee, like all these little things.
Sickle your foot. She'd always yell sickling.
Yeah. Don't sickle your feet. And so I listen to all these, and then I look at what dancers get the most attention and win the competitions. And I pay attention to the nuances visually of what they look like when they're dancing. They look very effortless and airy, and they don't look stiff, and they look very like they express really well. And I like subconsciously, for the amount of time that I've watched that show, I've soaked all of that knowledge in just by watching. Mm-hmm. And I put it into my dance, especially with the emotional aspect and everything. I put it all into my dancing. And teachers have pointed out certain things that I'm good at. And I always thank that show for just for being obsessed with it and all that. So these past 3 months, every time that I started beating myself up for not dancing or getting scared that I was getting rusty, I would put on Dance Moms, and I genuinely enjoy watching it, like God knows how many times, because
it's motivating. It's like a form of motivation and intake. And I learned, it's so funny that you're saying that, like in yoga, I've learned about out-turned feet. So that's instead of sickling, you turn out your feet this way.
A lot of yoga instructor or people, whenever who they're good at yoga, I notice they have amazing form already. I'm like, are you dancing?
And also like keeping that knee out. And of course, like I have a yoga lady that I follow on YouTube who of course is super influential, but like those words, they ring in your head. And as you're intaking, just one thing I will say, so especially Piano with Johnny too, I've been able to watch a lot more of his videos, but what they did to me in the very beginning, which is where this writer who wrote this question made me, when I used to watch Piano with Johnny, I couldn't even buy the membership. I would watch his stuff for about 5 minutes, and then I would get overwhelmed with, I will never be there. And then I would turn it off. And I would say, turn it off. If it's aggravating you, don't continue watching Piano with Johnny, and the better he plays, the worse you feel about yourself. Watch it if you're interested, and when you're no longer interested, turn it off, because it is just what it's doing is it's instigating your own expectation that you haven't had time to process out yet. You just haven't had time.
I always tell people, be careful with inspiration. Like back in the day, our
inspiration, not too much,
our was Tumblr back in the day. Like when I was in college, I would scroll like Tumblr for hours, because that's where all the amazing art was. And it's kind of like Instagram, with all those Instagram models, like people, they end up spending time hating themselves by looking at these people that they are like so amazing rather than like just strictly like realizing that I admire this person because they're inspirational to me and leaving it at that rather than making it mean something about you. For art, I always tell people to watch time lapses as much as possible rather than always just watching the finished results. Because we all post our highlight reels. We all post our finished results, our end results. No one ever posts the amount of hours that went into that whatever it was. Like when I post my thing, like I don't post the 3 hours that I spent practicing that like 2-minute piece of choreography. I only post the final product. Same with art. You post like a full-fledged colored poster or whatever, and no one knows the amount of scribbles it took to get to the final piece. So I always tell people, look how sloppy, I even have a lot of time lapses. I always show people, I'm like, look how sloppy my drawing started out with or whatever, because it's all scribbles in the beginning. And it makes you feel better when you see that really crappy drawing in the beginning, because you're just like, oh, that looks crappy. I can do that. And then if it got from there to there, hell yeah, then it's possible.
Yeah.
Did you want to say ahead?
Oh no, I was just listening to you, girl. That was nice.
Yeah, so shifting, if you observe that you're consistently being hard on yourself and you're in that low mindset, it is a matter of getting yourself out of that mindset. And there's exercises that you can do if you want to be more proactive about switching your mindset consciously. There's 3 types of lists you can do. One is gratitude listing. That is a very average, for all across the board spirituality exercise, where you just list things that you're grateful for. Another one is achievement listing, where you can every single day at the end of your day write everything that you did do, whether you just did it or you did a really good job at it. Like, I washed the freaking dishes today. I made my bed. Like stuff, little things like that. Or positivity aspect listing. That's a fun one, where you write positive things that are going well for you in your life. So like
else, actually, I did want to say, I do want to interrupt you now.
Go ahead.
Gratitude lists have always been terrible. I've never been good at gratitude lists. I have like doing what I did, I'd be better at. What did do a great deal for me along those same lines of changing your attitude a little bit was when I processed out ownership. So talking about identifying different feelings in your heart, right? Ownership is really a self-responsibility, but it's where you feel comfortable and in control of your space. And a lot of times what's happening is I'm working on my art. Here's my piano playing, and I do not feel like I'm in control of anything. And it's hard to take ownership and expression over something that you feel like is out of your control. And that's going to go back to some inner child work of like what ownership and control means to you. So honing in on, what does it feel to own my product? What does my product own? That's what manifestation is feeling those feelings first. Okay, well, if I was a good player, if I did own my product, what does it feel like? And my product is actually starting to come through. It's very interesting. Because like I said, I think that I'm really heading in a dancer, yogi, like that might be my future path that I'm really doing. But it doesn't mean I don't play piano. It just means piano might be my side gig that I play a couple performances a week, and I'm a yoga teacher full time or whatever. But my product on piano, what it looks like is very soulful, bluesy, and a little bit jazzy, but not too oddballish. Like it's very interesting. It mixes modern and blues and is very soulful. And it's funny because that's developing your own sound. And when you develop your own sound is only when you can have your ownership. And ownership means owning your mistakes and your level and owning it, really setting your boundaries in place. So one of mine right now is like, I don't feel bad anymore about the fact that like I don't have a huge product yet. Like I recognize I don't have my 4-hour set list, and I'm like, no, that's cool. I'm glad that I'm not trying to make that happen. There was a point where my first few performances I did at this cafe, I felt really bad about them because I was like struggling to keep up the amount of content. I would really take my time. I would take frequent breaks because I didn't have enough songs. And like, now I'm just like, oh, no, I'll just limit. Like, if I can only be in there for an hour, then I can only be in there for an hour. It makes me feel much better because I own the fact that I only have an hour worth of material, or I only have 90 minutes worth of material, you know, or I might not mix ukulele and singing songs and also piano songs because the genres don't mix very well right now. Like for me, it doesn't make me feel very strong. And that's about having ownership in your product and where you're at, and understand that everything that you see online when it comes to art, or everything that you hear on the radio, it's not you. So you can't own it. And no matter how hard you try to own their songs, that comparison is always going to make you feel bad. So what you have to do is admire them, but don't own them. Don't own somebody else's work, you know? So look into ownership for anyone trying to kind of emotionally process and think about what that means to you, you know?
Yes.
I concur. I would say we can either do one more question maybe.
More response. Okay, this is a good one. Not being talented. Maybe people won't like my art, although I'm not yet an artist.
Oh my God, this is the best one ever. Oh my, what is happening? Listen, this is my authentic self. I'm like a smelly, gross vegan.
No, Lindsey, we don't sweat. Stop it.
Listen.
Stop it. I'll Photoshop that later because we're perfect human beings, okay? Ladies don't sweat. No, I'm
ever. Or poop. We also don't poop. Hey, wait, hold on. It was, read that question one more time. I have so much to write about this one.
Okay. Not being talented. Maybe people won't like my art, although I'm not yet an artist.
Okay, this is great. Talent is a fallacy. There you go. That's no need to discuss it. Number 2, and actually I have the Suzuki method book. This is how I was Suzuki trained. I want to totally dive into that for a second. How to be an artist. So let's first go over that, because I was actually going to ask this, but I was trying my best to stay on topic, which I feel like we're getting better at. For those who don't think they're an artist, we talked about a little bit in part 2 about anything can be artistic, right? And I think it is important when you think about left brain and right brain, everyone is an engineer and everyone is artistic. I think everyone needs to acknowledge those facts right now. And if you don't think so, you need to get over your denial and do some completion process stuff, because everyone has a balance, and your engineering is going to be what you want to build. We always think of this as being very masculine, and your artistry is what you want to create. And everyone thinks about this always being feminine. So you can also apply it in that kind of way. And it's important to acknowledge that both are very, very important. You have the structure and then you have its expression. Okay. And most people get into one or the other, and then a lot of times they find in their partner, like you see all the time, and I am a complete example of this, is like my partner is like the most brilliant engineer ever. He would never say that, but like his dad was an aerospace engineer, and he is stupid smart. Like I told him when I met him that I think he's a genius, and he's like, okay, whatever. And I'm like, you don't understand that like the amount of structure that you have in your brain like doesn't exist. It's crazy, you know? And I'm very overly expressive, overly artistic, and downright spazzy, you know? And everyone has these two parts of themselves, and I want you to acknowledge which one are you working on right now. We're probably obviously talking a lot about expression, art, this side of the brain, so let's go there. And how do you influence that to the place where you want it to be? Because everyone already is an artist. I would say, what do you express yourself most through? So ironically, my love language, not ironically, actually completely expectedly, my love language is words of affirmation. I can't shut up, #Moon Gemini. And I actually almost enjoy singing because I can get so much expression out that way. I've recognized over the years that I'm becoming really singing piano based. Piano and singing is very, very in line with each other. for me and my expression because of how much I can express that way. So what is your expression? Now, one of my friends who's Taurus, all the way through her chart, just everything Taurus, she expresses in cooking, like, and she's a brilliant cook. Like the creativity, she's teaching me how, I'm helping her plan her wedding, and she's teaching me how to cook. She's like, I'll pay you. And I'm like, no, you won't. You'll teach me how to cook.
Planning, by the way, organizational skills, that's also a talent, and that's also an art.
Oh yeah. I've been loving, ever since I've been doing recitals, I might like have to be an event planner in my life, because I love the aspect of like organizing and implementing new ideas, because you just have to take on chaos and figure out what to do with it, you know? So what do you think? I want your opinion on that question. How do you become an artist? How do you become an artist?
Well, it's not necessarily become. It's like we said before, everyone is an artist, no matter what.
How do you express your art? It would be even a better way of putting it.
Yeah, we remember how we discussed how even like peeling an apple is an art.
Yep.
You know? It's creating something out of nothing. You find yourself, I think a good indicator of finding what you're good at or passionate at or something that you genuinely love is when you do something for a while and you forget what time it is. That's a really good indicator of something that is something that you will take on as a passion in the long run. And also another, what was it? I just watched a really good workshop of Teal Swan, and she was talking about like making money. It was like the most basic idea of how to make money is to meet a need. So if you can create something that is not only just like emotionally satisfying, but maybe functional, like for example, how I said how organizational skills is an art, and it's also great because in the end it has like a function to it, because it like brings some sort of form of convenience to your life. I always say, like, how can you give back as well? You know, so you can teach, you can either like help someone as far as that, like, you know, organization, like we'll take that art. You can either teach other people how to be more organized in their own life, or you can help other people actually organize like a schedule of whatever, or an event or whatever, and break it down. It's an art to break things down, you know. It takes like a certain mind to like have an idea and then like outline it for somebody.
Also, I to interrupt you here as well, something that when you talk about like masculine, feminine energies, which I don't mean to go here, but I have to, masculine being the structure, feminine being the expression, what a little bit is happening in our dichotomy is that the structure of things, we try to structure art. We try to structure it. And that's why a lot of people, I think, don't identify art, is because they're like, oh, event planning, no, that's my job. That's my structure.
Dude,
yeah.
Art.
Exactly. And I think that you would do anyone out there who's like, I'm not an artist, and now they're trying to like, well, okay, where is my art, right? One thing you have to do for us, as well as every artist on the planet, please identify your art. One of the things I put on my poster for my recital was make music a job again. Because so many people are like, oh, it's not a real job. You know, art is not a real job, or it's not real, or it's, you know, you have to make money. Art is only real job when it's structured, you know, and that is completely backwards from what the expression of art is, which is really the creative aspect of it. It can be structured, it can be not structured.
I think it's also because people think that art doesn't really make money or is not a real job, because people think that it's not giving back to society in some way, like science and lawyers.
Meanwhile, what do they do after work is they go and drink and see live music. So you tell me, you know,
or
like
cartoon artists or in animators or whatever. There's so many titles for that. They also serve society in a sense where, like, for example, right now there's the coronavirus, right? Everyone is stuck at home and like depression is a thing. And so what do people do when they're depressed and sad? They watch cartoons.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Entertainment,
you
because
look straight to the artists when you were feeling bad. We are the ones who save you from yourself. So
yeah, we we take you on not an escape from reality, not necessarily, but we kind of like hit home with those emotions.
You don't express. That's the thing, is that when people go home and they isolate, or when people have these reactions, and you a lot of times negatively, what it does is that art allows you to express all aspects of yourself and get in touch with them as well, align with them. And art is everywhere. That expression is everywhere, even in engineering, even in the structure. The only thing that allows the structure to create was the expression of the idea in the first place, And so the how to be an artist, I think, first comes down to identification of where you express. And the second part is acknowledging it. So if I am a wedding planner, I wouldn't be like, well, I'm a wedding planner. I would be like, oh my gosh, I'm an artist when it comes to being a wedding planner. That's all you got to do. Recognize it's your art, and then immediately you're going to start expressing artistically into that structure that you already have. But they're hand in hand,
Yeah. Also the whole not being talented aspect. I like to say it's not, when you're saying I'm not talented, I like to ask, like, who says you're not? And who are you looking for validation for that talent? Because why are you always putting validation outside of yourself as far as what talent really is? Art is what art is subjective. Is that subjective, right?
Yes, subjective. That's right.
Yeah. Or we all. So I'm like
not concrete. Yeah. It's
So what one person will think that something is actually like absolutely beautiful and amazing. Another person will think that it's utter garbage and it takes no talent to do it. It's all based on opinion. So what I try to tell people is it's not that it's totally irrelevant whether you're talented or not. It's, do you feel good doing it?
Now I've got a question. The talent thing, what's the definition of talented? Because I'm also going to lead back around into everyone who's like, you're so talented, you're so gifted. This is along that premise. What's the definition? Yeah. We going to Google? Going back to Google?
Going back to Google.
Google.
All right.
Google, who won the election? I mean, what is talented?
So talent means natural aptitude or skill.
Magical aptitude. Okay, so talent doesn't exist because magic doesn't exist. There you go. Or talent always existed because magic always existed. Oh my God.
A second definition is a former weight and unit of currency used especially by the ancient Romans and Greeks.
A talent? Okay, I don't think that's the one.
That's probably not. Hold on, let me see if there's any more. Okay, yeah, so it's a natural aptitude or skill. So it's a skill.
Yeah. With me, okay, what I see when people see talent, anytime it's been said to me, you're so talented, the vibration that it holds for me is you have an excellent product very effortlessly. That's what I would like to define it as, is you have an excellent product very effortlessly.
Yeah.
And it implies, and especially it always comes with, you're so talented, you're so gifted. They're used very synonymously. So when someone says to me, you're so talented or you're so gifted, what they're saying is that this was given to you by an outside source, not by yourself. And I think that is not true. And
no.
At all. And Suzuki method training, okay, which he did for violin and piano. What Dr. Suzuki said is that anyone can learn the piano, and it's about fundamental training. His whole premise was that it has nothing to do with a natural aptitude, and he proved it by developing a method. And the method is very fundamentals based. It's very like technique and hours based, like hours put into it, that kind of thing. And I also want to put that the people who have said that I'm most gifted and the people who say I'm most talented are those who are furthest from their art. So those are the least creative people, who are the most odd, like, I just don't even know how that works, you're so talented. And there's a lot of things that I'm not familiar with. When I say like wanting to get more into engineering and mathematics and stuff like that, that is because my brain doesn't work that way very well. And I don't think that Kyle is talented. I think that he's a genius, but I also don't think that that's because nothing. I think it's because his dad was an aerospace engineer and he grew up learning this stuff from the time he was 6. You know?
Yeah, he has attainment of knowledge and everything. There's a lot of, that's also, to me, that's also a skill, is how well you're able to retain knowledge out there. Like there's a lot of people that like for example, there's a lot of people that know a lot about cooking because they watch tons of cooking shows, but they've never actually cooked anything ever in their kitchen, or they don't cook as much in their kitchen, but they know so much because, you know, they're passionate about what they're watching, or reading. You know, people read a lot of books about things, and, you know, like for example, me, I read a ton about self-development or metaphysics or the subconscious mind. I'm, even though I'm not doing it for a living, you know, I'm not like a coach, you know, whatever, therapist or what, I don't know, whatever. It's not what I do for a living, but I do feel like it is a skill of mine. Just so much about it, you know?
Dude, this is so interesting. I'm like learning something on the spot. So this is very interesting. You said something that totally gave me a whole new spin on talent. So anyone who has said that I'm talented or gifted usually is coming from a point of awe, you know, like, wow, they really enjoy something about your product, right? And they also are very far from the process, that they kind of like a lot of times like chalk it up like, I get this all the time, you need to appreciate your gift that God gave you, you know? And I'm like, I am not opposed to the universe or God setting me up for success. I'm not denying those things, that I was born into a specific family that supported this art. I chose to do it, but my dad paid for lessons for 15 years. I don't deny that that was meant to be, you know, kind of thing. But it also was the amount of hours and work. So I don't think that I was born with this ability. I think I was born into a circumstance that supported this ability that I wanted to pursue. Now, something about the skill set where you were saying, hey, this is a good skill, or one of your skill sets had to deal with retention. So retention is something I struggle with, and I'm going to like meditate hard on this. And this also is like an ADHD thing. I also, being ADHD, I don't really care about the label. I'm just coming into contact more and more with what it means for other people and what it means for my mind's functionability. Anything that's diagnosed, especially like with autism, ADHD, what's the other one? Dyslexia, like these kind of common, they call them like, they are kind of attention deficit or categorically, like, not that you can't learn, but they just kind of categorize your brain set a little bit. I don't think that makes you any less than. I just think that it helps pinpoint your functionability range and what you tend to escalate in. And that actually kind of narrows down what most people mean by talent as well. I think talent has a lot to do with your retention. People are like, wow, you just retained all this. You know, I took this and I never retained it. I never was able to have that input factor to develop this product. You're very talented, right? And when I wrote down my own definition of retention, because I think most people kind of understand what it means that the incoming information stays with you, retention, you know, or the cookie that you just ate stays with you, retention. But it means that the incoming information stays with you, okay, retention. What I actually put retention as the digestibility of information. I don't think retention is talking about stagnance. I think retaining something has to do with your ability to digest it. And when someone is talking about talent, they're talking about you have a high digestibility factor to this particular art that I, you know, saw you perform. And that retention is very interesting because ADHD is an attention deficit. So I was like, oh crap, that's brilliant. I'm going to have to go back and do some childhood work today about when my retention was broken, because I struggle with retention a lot. And what I would say, anyone who, when they're wondering if they're not talented, do what I'm going to do this week, which is coming back to retention. And maybe next time, if we can remember, because no promises, I can't retain information, but maybe if I meditate on my retention aspects and I learn to retain something, I can remember to come back to what this is like after I process it. Because I really have to process it through my subconscious in my deep meditation. I don't know how I'll be affected after I do that do that completion process stuff on retention. But I think that's what it's talking about, is your ability to retain something. And everyone, that's also going to be a key indicator of where your art is, because if you think that you're not talented in this area,
you're probably not retain information.
Yeah, you got to figure out where you retain it. So this is a good example I'm going to use. Okay, I have a student who's tone deaf, legitimately. She enjoys singing. She enjoys playing. Like, she enjoys doing music lessons, and she legitimately is tone deaf and has a very, very, very low auditory processing rate. And I'm still experimenting if that can be taught or how that goes about, because every music teacher I've ever come in contact with says, oh, well, you either can hear or you can't, you know? And I would agree that there is a certain amount of digestibility or retention auditorily. But I'm thinking that this student is highly visually functioning. And I'm like, you know what? If she doesn't retain auditorily, I need to make sure that she's getting visual teaching. So I teach her visually all the time with different types of cues. But also, she might find that later on in life, a different art. You know, I mean, she's young anyways, you know, she's only 9 or something like that. And as we get going, I'm going to teach her how to express herself in this way. You know, that's my job. But also, she might learn through her own digestibility and through me what works for her. And that product may or may not be piano. If you're finding that this is just really hard to digest, you can move as slowly as it takes, but be very open-minded to what you do digest very easily and go in that direction. And know that regardless of what it is, it always takes a long time. So that's when we were talking about dealing with the disappointment, is like, regardless of how easy you digest sound, I'm very auditorily high functioning auditorily. Takes me a long time to digest stuff about jazz, you know, like it doesn't mean that it's not going to be a ton of steps to get your product there. But stay open to what you do digest and then follow that. I'm finding I'm kinesthetic first, I'm auditory second, and I'm visual third. So take that into consideration when you're developing your arts and try and balance them.
I also like to tell people to be real with yourself. If you like a skill or a talent just because of someone or something else, or if you genuinely, truly like doing it. So, like, for example, I tried, you know, the lyra, the hoop,
Yeah,
aerial. I tried that once. I took a class. I hated it.
dude, I wanted to blow chunks on that thing. I hate that thing.
It looks beautiful and I love watching it, and I'm like, wow, that looks really cool. But when I was actually doing it, I was like, I'm okay going my whole life without not knowing how to do the lyra.
The exact same way. I do not
like guitar. For some reason, I don't know why, at some point in my life I stopped learning new chords or learning new techniques or whatever, or learning like how to do like single note patterns and stuff rather than chords. Some point in my life, I was just like, you know what? I'm okay not being a master at guitar. I'm okay with just knowing this much, because I can see where you can tell that when you're learning a new skill or a talent, you can tell that you can tell when something's frustrating you more than actually having it be enjoyable. And there you can. I'm pretty sure if you've have dabbled with enough things in your life, you can tell which skills or art or whatever is more enjoyable for you than others. Which ones you find.
That's like the finding. That's the aspect of finding your sound. When I talk about that with your singing or your playing, finding your sound is like what resonates with you most. It's not that you can't do something else. It's just you're finding like your inclination. It just brings you there. My inclination just brings me towards blues, like hard.
Yeah.
Synchronistic stories, like blues, everything.
Like belief that they have to be amazing at absolutely everything. Like even with like dancers, they like well, I mean, in the professional world, that's something different. But you know, some people like have this belief that they have to be amazing at every single genre, but if not every single genre resonates with you, then don't worry about those. For me, like for example, with art mediums, watercolor versus acrylics, I will take acrylics any day over watercolor. I don't know why. There's just something about watercolor that just doesn't resonate with me. I love acrylics way more, and it's more enjoyable. I feel more confident doing it, and I don't beat myself up for not knowing watercolor. And every now and then I try to like attack it. I'm like, okay, today I'm going to try some watercolor. Every single time I do it, I'm just like, I'm just genuinely not interested in it. I'd rather do other things right now.
Yeah.
You know, just be real with yourself and stop telling yourself that you have to be amazing at every single thing that is out there.
Yeah.
And also another like one thing I'll end this on is it's great to approach everything with a B plus mindset rather than an A mindset. Because it's important to approach everything with a sense of I'm not going to be perfect at anything, because then you have more fun doing it. Because if you always expect yourself to be perfect at absolutely everything, that's room for more expectation, like unrealistic expectations and blocks and hating yourself and all that, rather than like saying, hey, I'm not going to be perfect at this. I'm going to aim for just a B plus at this. So I can at least have fun doing it. My therapist tells me this all the time. She teaches me that it's when you were back in school, you felt a lot more encouraged and better when you knew that you gave it your all in anything that you did, and having it just be that, rather than like, oh, you gave it your all and you didn't you didn't get your A and you didn't get this perfect outcome, therefore you still failed. No, like, but what matters is that you did give it your all and that you enjoyed the process. So just have those moments of realism with yourself. And if you do tell yourself stories that you have to be absolutely amazing at everything and a Renaissance person or a prodigy at something, start going into shadow work and ask yourself why and what's the meaning of it. Like what would that make it mean if you did have it or didn't have that skill or talent, and you were like absolutely amazing at it, or you weren't absolutely amazing. What does it mean?
This just goes back to the meaning. That's like, wow. I mean, both of us will sit and be up Teal Swan's butt every day, is just about how to create meaning, positive meaning, and not neglect any of those like visceral reactions, the negative reactions, because all motivation, like she is the best motivational speaker because she breaks it down. She is not soothing, which I love a good soothing. Like I love watching a nice tarot card reading for soothing aspect, which is positivity focus, but it doesn't actually let go of the negative. Watching a lovely video online that's very positive focused doesn't actually let go of that negative construct that you were taught, and that's what I've been loving on my books right now, is they're very soothing focused, and what they do is they bring up new points. I can't read for very long because they bring up so many new points that I have to do completion process or shadow work pretty quickly. Like I'm on page 2 and I'm like, oh, okay, well now I gotta go think about that. I just have to run off and do it and whatnot. But yeah, girl, dude, this is perfect. This is awesome. I feel like I get so energy high off of you. It's great.
I know, me too. I get all the time. I actually make this podcast with me and you as a form of like a creative outlet that I can go to.
It's so creative outlet for me too, because all these people are like, how do you stay motivated? I'm like, I don't know. I just podcast with Sabrina because I'm constantly demotivated.
I'm this.
You got your own life going on, and it gives us a common focus with a lot of people coming in who all are dealing with different complete circumstantial that they feel blocked on. Everybody's dealing with a bunch. I'm dealing with all sorts of personal life things they're not bad, they're just circumstantial, and they block you from wanting to get that momentum. And this like feels so momentum building, like for me, for you. And then when I see the audience and I'm like, how did you get that many views? Like, I don't understand when you don't even have that many people subscribed. It's great.
And it's funny because the like amount of views that we see, it's a lovely way of it's a lovely example of gratitude, because the views for us, a lot of views for us, but other people will be like, that's nothing. Like I know videos that have 1,000 views, but it's like, no, like podcast and it's great. Also, we're a social species, so I like go if you're feeling stuck and blocked, go out and like talk with high vibe, inspirational people, not misery loves company and people who just want to like talk about their depression all day. Like, no, go hang out with people that will talk about amazing, fun things, even if it's just about like freaking video games or something.
Happy Mars retrograde ending. I don't know how much of this you want to make about through weird astrology crap, except I'm going there. I'm so happy it's done. I can feel it. Scorpios, I haven't always gotten along with you, but every time Scorpio season rolls around, it's like a party. And I'm like, all right, you guys aren't that bad. I'm sorry I haven't said anything, because they're so like, it's always about transformative. And like the beginning of Scorpio season is always rough for me, but the ending, I'm always like, And then on top of that, Mars.
Scorpio's about transformation, whether it's death of something.
Yeah, so you'll see a lot of, I don't know if it's a mutable sign. I have to look up about that. Keep in mind, my astrology knowledge is actually like beginner intermediate, but there is a lot of movement through Scorpio, even if it is a fixed sign. Like Scorpio season always brings a lot of movement, and Mars just came out of retrograde, and Mars is in Aries, its ruling sign. So like all of the work, all of the monies, technically also your sex life, go have fun, kids, all of that is going to be super pushed forward in a positive way now, and you're going to get the payout. Like the payout is coming nice, coming good. And when you talk about motivation, now over the next 6 weeks is going to be a hugely motivating time, because Mars is in its ruling sign. So a lot is going to get done. And when you think about politics and stuff like that, not going political, but when you think about politics, over the next 6 weeks is going to be huge, like huge movement, just ridiculous, like forceful forward movement, because Aries, what's up, just wants to get stuff done. Like we just want to get it done. I'm an Aries, for those of you who don't know. And it's going to be nice, because all that stuff before of reevaluating your work life and reevaluating your money and your business and all that stuff, everything's going to start toppling on top of itself now, which is another thing I've been dealing with personally. Is like, I just felt like my business, I didn't know what was going, because everything's shut down. So I can't go and play in a cafe and be like, oh, also I do children's piano lessons, you know? And I'm lucky. Like my students are staying with me, but you have to anticipate people don't stay with you forever. Things happen all the time. And I just don't have any type of advertisement whatsoever going on. And it doesn't matter. I don't really want to overtly advertise. I don't think that coming off desperate is ever the right thing. I just want to work on my product and allow the audience to come. That's what I agree with spiritually. But it's hard, because I'm like, now we're COVIDing. What the heck's happening with that? You know, and I will get back on YouTube. Actually, I feel like December is going to be a really good month for me, getting some YouTube content out and getting my piano lessons back in focus. I have another recital on the 12th. Once that's out of the way, I can focus on my own music and not the 14 songs that I have to learn for my students and cues, you know. But yeah, like the new moon, man, it set me right, and I'm feeling so much better than I was the last 6 weeks.
I'm starting my workout schedule again, like last night. I did start around Halloween time. I started working out for 2 days straight, and then I stopped again, but I worked out yesterday. I got into the flow of it, and I established like sometimes getting into a routine, like starting off a routine, you have to like literally make it down to a detail to make it feel like it's something that you're going to continue with. So
yeah,
I have routine of like setting up the lights in the living room, a very specific, like, you know, like
that. I like that.
Yeah, because it brings you into a routine. Like if you it like what is it, like through your senses too. So you have
write down for next time. So retention is one I want to discuss further, and then also this one, which is not your routine. It is, what is it?
Setting up.
Yeah, atmosphere. That would be a great one. Atmosphere. I am huge on atmosphere, especially being like an airy personality. So people who have a lot of air in their chart, or that are very whimsical, like whimsicalness is kind of an airy nature. We have a hard time just sitting down and studying, and being very airy, I don't create that environment very well. So I like completely rely on this cafe, because I know if I'm there, it limits my space into, like, it grounds me.
Yeah.
That's for your candle. Like when I light the candle, it means I'm grounded. For me, for yoga, I can do all sorts of my own flows and I do them all the time, but I only count my yoga days on the days that I do the 50-minute follow through with this woman, because she'll hold me in a pose when I'm like, I would come out of this by now. And she's holding hers and I'm like, damn it.
Feeling or the atmosphere that you set up when you do start your yoga session where you're following somebody, like, do you?
Yeah. So I make sure I always have my towel out, because the towel means you're going to sweat, so it means you're going to do your effort.
Down?
Yeah, so I always make sure that I have my mat and my towel and my blocks. So like, I won't always use blocks, but if I take them out, it means I'm going to do the hard stuff. You know what I mean? So there's like all sorts of little things that you're prepped and ready for the hard state of mind,
Yeah. It's cool. It's was it like that cooking term, mise en place? Like, have you heard of that term?
Nope. I feel stupid.
I learned it from that Selena Gomez, like she did her own like cooking thing a couple months ago.
Selena, girl. Oh my God, doing Selena Gomez.
But it was really interesting because I recorded a tutorial for these abstract paintings that I do. I wanted to do a couple and like record it so people can see like how to do it themselves, and to like set up the atmosphere and prep and get yourself into it. Obviously we have a way of where we do it daily. We know what to do, but this was something that I just came out of the blue. But like even just prepping for it, like got my mind ready to do it and like got me into the flow already. So just all I did was lay out all of the materials on the table that I was going to use, which is what mise en place is when you lay out the exact measurements of your ingredients, and then also all the utensils and dishes and stuff that you're going to be using.
Brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Mise, how do you spell that? How do you spell that?
No, I'm going to be embarrassingly stupid.
Look it up on Google. Google saves us all.
Oh.
Although I hope they didn't edit how to spell mise en place as well. They've been having some issues.
What is mise en place? Why is it so important? Okay. Okay, so it's MISE space EN space PLACE. And it's
French,
I guess
presumably
it's French. And it says it means to have all of your ingredients prepared and ready to go before you start cooking. And it means to put in place.
Oh my God, that's brilliant. Okay, that's our next podcast topic. How many? We got through 3 questions today. How many do we have left?
Oh geez, I don't even want to address that. We have a lot.
Girl, I'm telling you.
They are kind of worded like differently, but kind of are responding the same way.
Okay, so here's what we need to do. I was gonna say we can do part 1 through like 10, but at this rate, we're gonna be like 25. Okay,
I don't care.
Okay, it's gonna be like a series. We have to do it. This is our series for this one. I would like to do 1,000 series with you until both of us are dead.
Yeah, if you want to continue this topic again next time we're ready to record, we can. If you want to take a break and talk, do the synchronicity segment that I told you about, we can do that. Remember how I told you?
I have to go get lunch and call my mom because I'm totally burning out. But let me write that one down here. Girl, this is awesome. Edit it up, do things.
Okay.
Bye.
Love you.
Bye.